Welcome into another Arkansas football recruiting report. That's Otis Kirk. I'm Jacob Morris. And Otis, we were talking a little bit before getting on here. Arkansas flip-flopping between 23 and 22 commits in the class of 2025. Arkansas gets Bubba Craig, an offensive lineman from Hutchinson, Kansas, continuing a little bit of a pipeline here from Hutchinson. Terrell
Yeah.
Reed obviously came over in the offseason as well. They get a
David
commitment from him. He
Staley.
was present at the Ole Miss game and once again kind of bolstering the trenches a little bit. That comes after, of course, losing Evan Noel, the kicker commit, who flips
Yeah.
to Florida. A big loss, but hey, at least you're bolstering the trenches as well.
Yeah. Bubba is 6'6", 312 pounds. He's from Fort Wayne, Indiana, a big kid. I've seen him listed at 6'8", but official roster up there at Hutch has him 6'6", 312. It's what they have him at the official roster. So I saw the kid. Obviously, he was at the Ole Miss game, as you said, but he was also down here. I mean, I first found out about him last when Tyrell was being recruited, Tyrell Reed, and and Danny was from Hutchinson too. Went to BYU for a semester and then back to Hutch, or not back to Hutchinson, back to to Arkansas. But Tyrell told me, he said this kid's going to be a Razorback next year, and sure enough, he is. I mean, so he alerted me to the player then. So Tyrell and I talked quite a bit about him, and at that time, which was back when Tyrell was going through the process. And he said, the kid was going to go to Hutch and then be at Arkansas after a year. So we'll see how all this works after this year. And, so yeah, it gives them 5 offensive linemen in this class. Gives them a little bit of an older one.
Yeah.
Because you don't know what some of these guys like Carmona, you don't know, is he going to go pro? Is he going to stay a year? Well, I mean, not just that. I mean, some of these kids enter the transfer portal to the return. Just because the player's got eligibility anymore doesn't mean, used to you can say, well, Arkansas is going to get this kid back and that kid back. And this one might declare for the draft, but now you don't know who you're actually getting back. So, yeah, it never hurts to get an older offensive lineman because there's always a place for them. And the thing about him is, coaches love height, and you can't coach that. Yep. He is 6'6", 6'8", whatever you want. I've seen listed both. Like I said, I'm going 6'6" because that's what's on the roster. I looked at his picture too that's on Pig Trail Nation in Hogville, and he was standing by Tyrell. Yeah, and he's a lot taller than Tyrell, but it didn't look like he was 6'8". So I think 6'6", but whatever. He's a tall kid, and he will help them even depth. Or will he start? I mean, that's obviously going to be determined, but he will be in this class. They've got 4 high school players on the offensive line, and I would assume they're probably going to take a couple or 3. There again, all this we can speculate on how many they're going to take from the portal, but till you know exactly what you've got coming back, you can't say that for sure, Jacob. So, but I think they're probably. Sure as I say this, somebody will flip. But I think they're probably going to stop at 4 high school offensive linemen, and then you got Bubba. Yeah. And so I think any additions would be from portal. But as I said, as sure as I say that, some high school kid committed somewhere else will switch to Arkansas. So, or that, well, but honestly, I think any new additions to the offensive line will be from the portal, and how many will be determined. Basically, how many Arkansas needs in the status of some of these kids like Carmona and them, are they coming back? Are they going pro? Whatever they're doing. So there's that to be determined. They've got 23 players, as you said, in the portal. I mean, in the class of 2025. Got a quarterback, 2 running backs, 3 receivers, 5 offensive linemen. I just said 1 tight end, 3 edge, 3 tackles. I'm talking about tackles on defense, 2 linebackers, and 3 in the secondary. Obviously, needs right now would be more secondary players. Probably going to be those are almost certainly. One of the defensive backs is a junior college kid, Shannon Blair from East Mississippi Junior Community College. So one of them is a junior college player. The other 2 are high school players. I think Arkansas will hit the portal pretty hard in secondary. I think they'll hit it really hard. Linebacker, we'll see. They've only got 2 high school kids. I'd love for them to add Cash Archer there. I don't know if they're going to, and don't guess they are, but I'd sure like to see that. On the defensive line, Deke's done a good job. He's got 6 defensive line. some of these kids I say are edge could move inside, or one of the inside could move out. Obviously, Kevin Otis is a big player inside. Obviously, going to play inside, and he shoot. That's a huge get. Tavian Grant at linebacker is a huge get at linebacker. But I feel like what they do in the portal would, still, as I've said, will depend on what they need. So we'll see there. But I think defensive back is one position they could hit really hard. Kicker, I don't know if now with losing Evan Noel this late, there's another high school kicker they like, or if there's somebody from the portal. They went to the portal last year and got 2. So, and it's been kind of a mixed bag of results. I think the kid now is doing it now, is kicking better. He's seems to be a little bit more consistent, but then you got Ramsey. You thought you were getting the most consistent kicker in the country. And for whatever reason, he struggled mightily after only missing 1 field goal. You and I talked about that off there at Abilene Christian last year. And the kid from Hawaii, he's actually done a better job lately. Hit a couple last game. I think he was 2 or 3 the game before this, and then of course obviously 1-1 yesterday. So we'll see what the kicker Fountain, which direction Fountain goes. I would assume no matter what he does on kickers, he will probably almost certainly sign one. But I also think he will probably try to get a talented walk too, because kickers, you just never know 100%. And it's not a shot at anybody at all, not at all. But when you get a kicker, you don't know what you're getting. So it would not surprise me if no matter if he goes high school or portal, Coach Fountain, if he tries to find 1 or 2 preferred walk-ons who are really talented and can challenge for that job, So like, he got Devin Bale out of the portal, and he came in, punts and kicks off. So, and like I said, the 2 kickers they had this year that kicked were both from the portal. So, so we'll see. But I really expect them to add a scholarship kicker, whether it's high school or portal, and then 1 or 2 preferred walk-on. Preferably someone maybe has an offer to a smaller school and wants to try SEC, and you can get pretty talented kids, But I think you need some competition there.
Yes.
You really do. You don't want to hang all your hat. Maybe they felt safe doing that with Evan Noel. I think they felt safe doing that. But you really, beyond that, I don't know if you want to feel safe just putting all your chips in on one kicker. So I think Arkansas will try to add 1 or 2 or 3 before it's all said and done. By the time we get to the next season, 2025 season.
Yeah, I mean, I think competition only helps when it comes to kickers, right? And you want to give yourself as many dart throws at the board to hit the position as you want. And I think there's a variety of different ways to go about that. But it's like you said, we were talking about it. I think kickers are so interesting from the standpoint that you just have no clue, and you take a kid that was 15 to 16 somewhere else and it doesn't quite work out. And it's almost, we were saying, it's almost like pitchers, right? It's an environment thing. It's like all of a sudden this guy just can't throw. He can't find the strike zone, right? And they're going to have to figure something out. And I think you're right. They're going to go a variety of different ways. And to go all the way back to Bubba Craig also, I always think junior college kids are really interesting from the standpoint that you mentioned it, right? It's getting somebody else older in the room, right? They love all the offensive line commits they have, but you go down the list, right? And you got Cash Courtney, feel great about, 6'4", 285, right? How's 6'6", 300, right? 6'3", 290, and then you look at him and he's 6'6", 312, right? So he's just a little more filled out and gives you an opportunity, if needed, to potentially fit in. All those freshmen that they're bringing in are great. They feel great about it. Just as that's a position as a true freshman you're very rarely going to see somebody step on the field as, and that's something people don't really think about with junior college kids. They come in a little bit more ready to go, even though they count, right? Class of 2025, but he comes in a little bit more ready to play.
Yeah, you just want to keep yourself covered there, because it's hard for a freshman. It's not impossible, but it's hard for a freshman to go up and go again. Put him out there Well, like Marion Harris
Hmm.
history against the defensive ends, I mean, what about a freshman doing struggling out, out there? That'd really be asking a lot of a freshman to go out there. So, Marion had a pretty rough game yesterday. As it could happen, it happens. But
Yeah.
that's what happens when you're playing in the SEC and you're going up against the Texas, the Alabamas,
Hmm.
the LSU's and the A&Ms. You're gonna go up against those type edge rushers, and that's why you want an older player if you can get some experience. And not just that, he's more mature, he's just older, had a little bit more experience. And a lot of times experience matters, especially on the offensive line. And you're stronger, should be stronger. So hopefully this works out for Arkansas. I think it will. And whether he starts or not, even if he could be a key
Yep.
piece of depth part there on the offensive line, that would be big. But I like to pick up. I mean, it's a deal where you're sitting there. I knew it was coming. I was surprised it hadn't happened before. Tyrell was pretty certain during his recruiting that this was going to happen,
Yeah.
and he alerted me at that time. And I know he's excited about it. I know he is. And so, in fact, I tried to get Bubba on the show today. I couldn't get a hold of him. I didn't even get his number till this morning at like 10 o'clock. So I got his number. Maybe eventually we can get him on here. If not, that's okay. But no, it's, I don't. He may be in travel. Travels
Hmm.
more night, or may have. I know a lot of the recruits right now have meetings on Sundays. With their high
Yep.
schools and junior. They went 9-1 at Hutchinson. I will say that, Jacob. Hutchinson had a very good
Powerhouse.
season again. Yeah, they went 9-1 this season. I did figure that out when I went to their their website because I was wanting to see what they had him listed at, because I've seen most of the recruiting services having 6'8", 320, and they've got him at 6'6", 312. But I was also looking, and they lost to Butler County. And when he was here for the Ole Miss game, I wondered about that. That was their bye week. That
Hmm.
was Hutch's bye week.
Yeah.
They played yesterday and they played last Saturday, and they won both games. So they've won the 2 games since he was here. They played yesterday and won. I forget who they played. I should have written it down. But anyway, they're 9-1. They'll get a bowl bid somewhere. I don't know. I don't think that's been announced yet. Junior college's media coverage there is not like it is with like Arkansas, where the press box is full. It's pretty hit and miss. And it's just like I had a junior college coach told me one day. I went there to watch him practice when he had a star player. He told me, he said, Otis, I am the coach, the academic advisor, the dorm manager. He said, I had to go get 50 something kids out of jail the other night, at 2 o'clock in the morning, and he said, I'm everything here. He said, man, it's not like Arkansas. He said, this was it's one of the schools in Kansas, Fort Scott, and I went up there and watched them practice. And he had they were, he just said, I have to do it all here. It's just different, And he said, I'm everything here. He said, man, these kids don't realize when they get to a school like Arkansas, or obviously any of the SEC schools, or even the Big 12, and ACC and Big 10, how well they're going to have it as
Hmm.
far as academics and counselors and tutors and stuff. But he said it's tough here. And so, yeah, it's a different level there. You don't have like a lot of them don't have probably somebody in the SID like Arkansas's got Kyle, and they've got a whole list of people over there that,
Yeah.
when you're at the game, if you need help, they'll help and stuff. So it's a little bit different at junior college, is what I'm saying. It's a whole lot different. I've been to numerous junior college games, and it's not the same. I mean, to find an accurate roster, Hutchinson actually had a pretty good website. Some of those schools leave a little bit to be desired, but they actually had a pretty good. They actually had pictures of the kids, or maybe not all of them, but they had a picture of Bubba, and they
There you
had
go.
had a whole roster. They had the schedule. It was actually a pretty good website for a junior college. So yeah, I was impressed. But yeah, they're always pretty good. And then, as I said, they got Tyrell here. They've got
Hmm.
Danny Staley. I believe that's how you pronounce his name.
Yeah.
The big defensive tackle. He came via BYU, but he was at Hutchinson before that. So yeah, that's 3 kids. They're getting a little bit. And if you're
Pipeline.
going to pipeline into junior college, hey, let me tell you, Jake, that's a good one to get into. They've got talent there. They've got talent beyond Bubba Craig. So they've got talent. And that's not a bad. I know JUCO recruiting has fallen off on the SEC level lately. It seemed like it's a little bit of a comeback. There for a while, it was portal, high school,
Hmm.
portal, high school. There was nothing in junior college. But I know about 2 or 3 years ago, a couple of years ago, Sam talked about how he was making a comeback. And you see that with their recruiting. As I said, they've got 2 junior college kids in this class. Wouldn't surprise me if somewhere at the end of the year, if they end up with another one from somewhere or another. And never know, they may find a kicker in junior college, So it wouldn't surprise me if they had another junior college kicker somewhere before next season. So we'll see. But it's fun. I like the junior college. I used to go up there every season I had Coffeyville, Fort Scott, and Independence. We're all right there in Kansas. We're a very good drive from here. And and so it was fun to go up there, but anymore you don't really go because there's not very many opportunity, very many kids getting an opportunity. And Hutchinson's a pretty good little drive. It's about a 5-hour drive from Fayetteville, so that's a pretty good little jump when you get in the car and head to Hutchinson. Because I went by there when I'm driving to Denver. I see the sign, the exit for Hutchinson, to go up there. That's a pretty long ways. You got to go there's a lot of boring highway in Kansas to get to Hutchinson. I can tell you, man, there's a lot of boring highway in that state to get to Hutchinson. Coffeyville, Fort Scott, and Independence are pretty close. And so, yeah, I always enjoyed going up there. I'll tell you what, this is really not a whole lot to do with this, but I'll tell you what I did one time, Jacob, let me tell you what I did one time, man. I'm sorry, Jacob. I went to high school game on Friday night in Dallas. Okay, watched it, wrote story, got up, went to NEO the next morning. They kicked off at 1:00. I saw Chris Wade of NEO play, left there, went to Fort Scott, got there at 7:00. And the high school game started at 7:30 in Dallas. The junior college game actually started at 7:30. I walked in the stadium in Kansas at 7:00. I actually was in 3 football games in 3 different states and within a 24-hour period. And that's not a lie. It's ignorance is what it is. But I mean, I did it. I'm not lying. But I went to 3 games, high school and 2 junior college games within a 24-hour period in 3 different states. And needless to say, that's a lot of driving, my man.
A lot of driving.
A lot of football, but a lot of interviews.
Yeah. There's gems to be found there, obviously, from a player standpoint. You're right. Sam's talked about it a couple of times just from before the portal, right? That was a way, like we're talking about, to get guys that were a little more physically developed or had been at a Power 5 or a Division I school beforehand, something had happened, right? So obviously it was going to take a sharp drop, right, when the portal became a thing and you had easier access to guys to play right away, but it's definitely making a bit of a comeback. But as we mentioned, that's 23 right now for the class of 2025. And quickly, we talked a little bit before we got on, obviously this stuff is going to be fluid. The portal class where Arkansas is going to target is really going to fluctuate depending on what happens in your own roster, right? You don't know who's going to go, right? But if you had to kind of take stock of the roster right now, I know you mentioned the secondary a little bit. Where do you think are some areas Arkansas potentially will look to target and bolster through the portal after the early signing period in early December?
I think wide receiver would be an obvious one with that many older. You got at least Isaac and
Armstrong,
and and Tyrone that have no eligibility left. That's not even counting if somebody even if nobody transferred. That's still that's a lot of talent you're losing right there. Okay, I think wide receiver, secondary, which I said. I think they'll probably go for a running back there. Probably. I mean, JJ's going to the pros after this year, and they'll have who knows what Dominion and Braylon's there, but Tyrell we've talked about, and Rodney Hill obviously. But I think Arkansas would go for although they've got 2 high school kids committed at running back. They've got 2 high school kids committed, and I love the one we had on here from Parkview settled. I love that kid. I think he's going to be outstanding. But and he could play a lot of positions. But to answer your question, the offensive lineman, I do think they will go to the portal. Maybe if these guys come back like Cormona and Blackstock and all these guys return, Nichols, then I think you'll probably see Kudus is coming back as far as that's what Sam said. So I feel like probably at maximum maybe 2, but I know Sam loves to collect offensive linemen, and I don't think he can help himself. He's like Harold Horton used to be with linebackers. He can't help himself. I think Sam will take probably a couple of offensive linemen at least. I do think probably the defensive line. I mean, you've got Landon Jackson obviously won't be back. Some of these other kids, are seniors and stuff. So I do think that defensive line, they'll take some. They do have 6 from there. got a good start on 26 with Colton. Linebacker, I just don't know. I mean, I don't think they'll go heavy. They went heavy there last year because they had to, because they lost they lost 4 off the team. I don't know that I can't say I expected 4 to leave last year, but linebacker, maybe not so much. Might take, if you could find a no-brainer. They're not going to turn down a no-brainer though at any position. So I shouldn't just say linebacker, but they're not in a position to turn down a can't miss. I guess would be a better word than no-brainer, but a can't miss kid, if there is such thing as can't miss. I don't know if there is such thing, but I know people label them that.
Yeah.
But they're not in a position to turn down a kid like that, regardless of position. But quarterback, if Talon comes back, if and Grayson Wilson's on the way in, KJ's here, KJ Jackson. Still not used to saying KJ without somebody thinking I'm talking about KJ Jefferson, but KJ Jackson, and you got Blake Boda. So if Talon Green comes back, I don't think they'll hit the portal for a quarterback. I don't. But for the most part, I think you can look at the wide receiver, be the probably. And tight end, they're going to go. I'm pretty sure they're going there for a portal or kid or two. I was told that. In fact, I was told they weren't going to take a high school kid, but during that open week, they saw him play, the kid in California play, and he just felt like, hey, if we can get him, we need to take him. So I think that's what happened there. But they are going to take a tight end or 2 out of the portal. I forgot about that. But wide receiver probably going to be the priority on offense, not the only position, but the priority, and then defensive back on defense. That's where I think, Jacob, they will hit hard is wide receiver and secondary. But they will sprinkle in with the rest of them at the other positions is what I think they'll do. But that's the 2 positions to really keep it. Well, it's more than 2 positions, but I mean, those are the 2 spots, wide receiver spots and secondary, corner and safety, to keep your eyes on for maybe some. That's where they're going to hit for priorities.
Yeah, and I think sometimes people take when you say, hey, a lot of guys going out the door, they're going to target wide receiver in the portal, right? Sometimes people take that as, oh man, they have no faith in the young guys in the room. That's not the case. It's the same thing with
the numbers game.
Yeah, it's the same thing with the kicker idea as well, right? Where competition is always going to be a positive, and you want the young guys to come forward and take it, but it would be malpractice and irresponsible to just hope. Right. Yeah. So you need to get experience in the door, and you can say what you want about Arkansas's wide receiver group this year, whatever. It hasn't been deep enough outside of Andrew Armstrong. But the fact of the matter is you're going to lose 3 guys that are starting right now. So you need guys in the door. And I think secondary is the same thing. I mean, that was a point of emphasis this week with competition, right? So you do that in the offseason 100%. You bring in guys to compete. It's the only way to go about it.
Yeah, well, I think too. Who can say that Isaiah Satina, C.J. Brown, won't get hurt next year? Yeah. Who can say that? You can't say that. So you've got to. It's a numbers game at all these positions. You have to have a certain number in each position and then you let who starts and who plays, who's backup. You let that work itself out on the practice field, Jacob. You can't sit there and just say, well, these guys stink, so I'm going to go for it. That's not the way it works. Yeah, I mean, that's not a reflection on Isaiah. It's not a reflection on C.J. Brown or the other returning receiver. It's just the fact that that's how it works. You've got to have a certain number and to make those numbers work. And then you let who's going to play decide on the practice fields. That's how you work out is. But you don't, and so, but yeah, but that just the numbers game alone tells me that the secondary and wide receiver and it will be priorities. And I know tight end is because I had been told they turned down a high school tight end that went to another SEC school because they told him, we're not going to take a high school tight end. We're going to take a portal tight end or 2. And this kid went to another SEC school in Arkansas told him that. But then they found Garrison during the bye week. And loved him, and he's a lot bigger than the other kid I'm talking about. He's 6'7", 240. Great kid. We had him on here last week, I guess it was. And Gavin's just a kid. 6'7", 240. Yeah, he may not be the fastest tight end in the SEC, but he's got the size to block, and we all know how important that is for Sam. Plus, he's got good hands. And when he gets to it, he can catch it. And so, but that was one tight end. But when you were sitting there and you're looking at Luke. You're sitting there looking, and Shamar, they're hoping he'll be ready next year, but he hasn't been yet, according to them. And so, and so you're wanting to get it to where you got, at least, I think you'd want 5 in that room that you feel like if you had to play them, you'd be comfortable playing 5. And right now, right now on paper, they don't have that for next year. And that's why they've got, even with Gavin, they, excuse me, that even with Gavin, they don't have 5. And that's why you've got to hit the portal. And they will at tight end. I had almost forgot that, but that came in before Gavin ever came on board. That they turned down a kid that went to another SEC school simply because they just felt like. But he wasn't a big tight. He was more of a receiving tight end and would have had trouble in Sam's system of blocking like they won't block, And that's just the bottom line. And I didn't think he fit what Arkansas wants in a tight end. He's catching the ball, yeah. But blocking and he's the tight end's going to be asked to block. That's just the way it is. Like it or not. I hear fans gripe about that. Oh, you got to get these guys. Hey, look, they're going to get the ball to Luke. He gets the ball. Luke gets the ball. But they also want guys who can block, and that's why you've got to be able to do both. And Luke's getting there as a blocker, but he's a great tight end, But they're going to fill in around him. But yeah, I mean, it's like you said. When you look at Isaiah and CJ, that's not a reflection on them. That's not a reflection on TJ Metcalf, Tavis Metcalf, anyone else in the secondary, Selman Bridges, or anyone else. You've got to go get some players out of the portal, bring them in. And as I said, you let all that starting. Nobody this time last year probably thought TJ Metcalf was going to, and I know TJ didn't start yesterday. I get that. But he's been starting the year and played well for the most part all year. But I'm just saying he came on and earned that starting spot in preseason. My point, and that's the deal about all these kids. You let that all work itself out on the practice field.
Yep, competition makes everybody better. And again, important to note, we saw this last year. It's just going to be the case until we have some guardrails. This is all fluid right now, right? So secondary, tight end, and wherever, right, is the priority until somebody leaves you don't see coming, right? And that's just going to be the case moving forward. Hey, quickly before we go, any thoughts on the unfortunate 20-10 loss to Texas yesterday and where Arkansas kind of goes from here?
You certainly think they're going to beat Louisiana Tech, and as I said all along, the loss to Oklahoma State is going to bite them in the butt the rest of the year. Yeah. It's just I'm sure Tennessee's looking at Arkansas feeling the same way, Jacob. That Arkansas loss. I'm for sure Tennessee feels the same way, but the Oklahoma State loss is going to bite Arkansas in the rear. But I mean, you can get to 6 wins next year. I mean, next week. I'm sorry, next year. Get to 6 wins next weekend if you can. And you better, because let's be honest, they've got to beat Louisiana Tech. If they lose that game, I mean, we may get assassinated, not even be on there next week. Somebody may shoot us. So I mean, but Missouri's a winnable game.
It is,
but it's been a winnable game many times when they've gone up there. I remember the one year. The only time I've ever been to Missouri, they got beat 38-0. Was Chad Morris's year, and I went up on Thanksgiving Day. Came back on Saturday. That's when the game was on Friday. So we went up on Thanksgiving Day. I actually rode with Pig Trail Nation. We spent the night there, and we spent the night Friday night, and then came back on Saturday. But that was the Chad Morris year where they got beat 38-0. Connor Nolan, I believe, started, or he didn't start. Todd Story started, but Connor came in early. But other than that, my point to say all that was most of these have been winnable games up there other than that one, but they found a way to lose them. And so they've got to find a way to win it. And they can beat Missouri, but they've got to go out and do it. It's kind of like the A&M game down in Arlington. You could sit there and say Arkansas should win that game and this and that. And look how many times they've lost that game when they should have won it in Arlington. You can say the same thing about Missouri. You can sit there and say, turn purple in the face saying they should have won. They're the better team and this and that.
To do
Missouri, it until Arkansas beats them. You've got to say Missouri is the team to beat there. So that's why I'm saying I mean, it doesn't matter if you think Arkansas is a better team or a better program for that matter. Bottom line is Missouri finds ways to win, and that's what matters at the end of the day.
Yeah, that Missouri game's going to be interesting for a lot of reasons, obviously, but it's a schedule that's just set up a little odd for Arkansas this year, where they've had obviously 3 top 10 teams come into Fayetteville, and they're trying to play spoiler, right? And outside of really Auburn, right, Mississippi State, they were a favorite. Outside of really Auburn and Oklahoma State, you haven't had many games where Arkansas has sat down and said, hey, we're relatively even on the football field. And that's one Arkansas's got to go up and win the game, right? And Sam talked about it yesterday in the post-game presser, right? They're a coach's cliche kind of just perfect team right now, in that when they lose the turnover battle, they lose the game. When they win the turnover battle, they win the game. And it just is, they got to go up. And that's a game where, you know, it's not going to get a lot of attention nationally. That game matters from the standpoint that that's a game Arkansas can win. I don't care. They're going to be slight underdogs. Missouri, the way that they've played this year, Brady Cook banged up. I know they played better on the road in Columbia last night, but that's a game Arkansas has the ability to win. They should obviously take care of business against Louisiana Tech next week. And that's a game that, given what this team has said about itself, you can't really say anything else. You got to go up there and you got to win the football game. You just have to. Missouri will still probably be ranked at that point. Go up and win the football game. You just got to do it.
Friday.
No more
every
talking.
Friday. Yeah, every Friday I ride keep 5 keys to win, and every week win the turnover battle. It's been the number one. Simple. And I had a guy try to tell me it should be protecting Taylor Green. I get that, but all I know is 10 games into the season, what tells me 5 times they've won the turnover battle. They've won 5 games. 5 times they've lost the turnover battle. 5 times they've lost the game. And I'm telling you, we can look at the LSU game any way you want to, but that was a 16-10 game with 5 minutes left in the third quarter. They're still in that game. And Arkansas has the football. 16-10 with 5 minutes left in the third quarter. Arkansas has got, you know, all this stuff. Take care of the football. Go up to take care of the football next weekend against Louisiana Tech. Go up to Missouri, take care of the football, and let it fall. And I do think they beat Missouri if they take care of the football. If they don't, I've said from day one this year, you know, when I picked Arkansas to win 8 games, people thought it was crazy. But let me tell you, if they'd have protected the football, they might have won 8 games this year because they'd probably be sitting at 6 right now for sure. Oklahoma State would be 6, and we beat Louisiana Tech at 7. Then Missouri, you know, I think they're a better team than Missouri. But I'm not saying they're going to beat Missouri. I'm sure I'll pick Missouri simply because till Arkansas beats them. But I'm just saying there was 8 wins was there. I mean, if you don't give A&M the ball at the Arkansas 10-yard line on a fumble, who knows if they lose that game, Jacob? It's not like Arkansas. They got blown out. They got blown out in the Ole Miss game. I mean, they completely got blown out by a team that struggled. That fell apart against LSU in Baton Rouge, a team that lost to Kentucky at home, and Arkansas got blown out by that. But other than that, they have actually played these teams, including Texas. I mean, they play, you know, hey,
down 3.
They're driving. C.J. Brown doesn't fumble there. I'm not singling him out, but I mean, if he doesn't fumble there, and if Tyrone catches the ball that Taylor threw that got intercepted, if you avoid those 2 plays, who knows how that game would have turned out? So I'm just saying, it's not like Arkansas is. You sit there and say, well, you said they went, and then Arkansas's got blown out every game. They haven't. They have one game. I don't count the LSU game as a blowout. It was at 34-10, but I just go back to what it was with 5 minutes ago. And when they intercepted that pass at the 5-yard line and returned it, the air came out of Arkansas right then, Jacob. So you can say that was a blowout. That's fine. But I'm just saying that Ole Miss game is the one game where they just completely got the Auburn and Missouri effects of last year, where it was just ugly, you know.
Yeah. Yeah,
and it was ugly early, it was ugly middle, and it was ugly late.
No, it's we've been screaming it since about week 1. It's self-inflicted mistakes, and Sam said it yesterday. I mean, you can talk about this stuff till the end of the universe, but you just have to go out. Yesterday is a great example of it. That wasn't Texas ripping the ball away from you. Those were 2 turnovers that just can't happen. So hopefully Arkansas rectifies some of that this week against Louisiana Tech. Need to rectify some of it, get bowl eligible, and then just play a clean game against Missouri and let the chips fall. Just don't put yourself at a disadvantage, and that's going to change a lot of the results this year. And if they play a clean game, they don't lose a turnover battle, they will be in the game. They will be in the game against Missouri, and we'll see where it all ends up from there.
When they play a clean game, when they don't play a clean game,
frustrating,
then they can lose to anybody. They can lose to anybody, including
anybody.
They can.
Yeah. That's all the time we have on this week's Arkansas Football Recruiting Report. That's Otis Kirk. I'm Jacob Morris. We'll talk to you next week.